Hey everyone, so I want to start out by going over an ebook that I recently published, and a lot of you may have seen it already, and if you haven't, just get in touch with me and I'll be happy to get it out to you. A lot of the time, what happens with content is that when you read it or view it, sometimes you need a combination of delivery mechanisms to get the best out of it. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually go through the ebook here in hand, and I'm going to go over some things with you. So the ebook was called Currency of Time, and it starts off, everyone remains a prisoner of time until they've come to the realization that they are indeed stationed in this parking spot. The escape route only becomes possible when this is accepted as fact. Think of it this way, and then just allow yourself to digest it all. Because you have to be objective, so you kind of have to take a step back from the way that you normally perceive things so that you can actually um, expand and glean something from everything that I'm going to go over. From the time a child is born until they are done with the education system, they are conditioned to believe that time is not their own. Time is something that needs to be filled with tasks, and these tasks then create the building blocks for admittance to really a bigger time prison. Parents spend their days preparing us in the early years. They believe that there's no doubt we need to be ready for the school system's framework very soon. The scramble begins, reading us bedtime stories and trying to teach us our numbers and letters. Eventually, the years pass by and it's time for either daycare or kindergarten. So, from pretty much as soon as we're able to understand what's going on until we go to school, there's a routine. Now, there's nothing wrong about routine, but when a routine is one directional in its message, when it's really showing you that you should take up the bulk of your day repeating the same things over and over again, it's a routine that becomes unhealthy because one of the points of, and I'm not looking to knock the education system, or education is a beautiful thing. It's the foundation of pretty much everything. But the structure can be a lot better. The approach can be a lot better. The way it's looked at, the way it's handled, the way it's leveraged as a tool. And this is all part of conditioning. It all becomes a part of what we're used to and how we're programmed to think about things and behave. So that's the point of the ebook, one of the points. It all flies by in one big swoop, and the next thing you know, it's time for college and university. The world beckons, and the real race is on. Now everything counts on getting that good job and showing up day in, day out. What if it was discovered that this was an illusion and that everything did not count on landing that good job? Now, excuse me, what I mean by that isn't that people don't need to work and that they don't need to be conditioned to get to the point of having good habits and keeping a job. The point is that, a lot of people that are want to be or feel that they're entrepreneurial minded but haven't had the opportunity, and people that aren't, they really have one thing in common when they're entrenched in a profession, in a job. And that commonality started out with what everyone's programmed to think in most cases. So you go to a good school, eventually you get a good job. You can, of course, go to college, go to Ivy League colleges, which are very, very expensive. A lot of people are loaded up with student debt. We're not taught how to handle any of this before getting to that point, and it's almost the norm. The reward, if you will, is getting into, if you can get into an Ivy League school, and most people can't do it with scholarships. Some do, and that's a great thing because you don't leave school with debt. But if you do, and even if you get to the pinnacle, meaning going to the best of the schools, typically it's only a few percent of the people that have to finish at the very, very top of their class that come out with a tremendous job, tremendous uh, earning potential. So, back to what I was getting into. A job does not give you security because if you think about it, what you're doing is you're trading your time for money. And at any time, you can be dismissed, you can be fired, you can, in most cases, become somebody who strives, works very hard, and a lot of the time is underappreciated or even abused for that matter by your employer. So it becomes an exercise in futility, if you will. And being an entrepreneur obviously has its risks, but your time that you're trading, you actually have time freedom because you can decide how hard you work and when you do work, which is a huge thing. And although you're trading time for money, you do have control over your own destiny as an entrepreneur. So it's not as if being an entrepreneur is easy street. It is not. However, you have that upside. When you're locked into your profession or a job, you're capped, meaning that in most cases, for that 7 to 8 hours per day, or in other cases where people are even working two jobs, you are capped. You cannot make more, and you must be there from that time to that time in order to trade your time for money and get that paycheck. When you're an entrepreneur, you are trading your time, but you're in charge of your destiny, and that paycheck can be something that is to a much higher level because you have the potential to grow, and it's within your own control. So, what if we were taught to understand that time is really the most valuable currency of wealth that we're all born with? What if more time was spent teaching us from an early age that we need to discover what we're good at? When you teach someone at an early age to explore what they're good at, what their interests are, what their passions are, what you're really doing there is you're expanding their thought process. You're training them to be able to recognize um, what their dreams really are, and you're putting them in a position where they don't have a closed one track, a narrowed path. They're open, which means they can discover a lot of things as they mature and as they progress. Now, obviously, if you weren't brought up this way, it's not too late because you can learn how to expand your thinking, how to look at things differently, because everything is about perception. So if you look at, for instance, the online industry, the online world, and you say to yourself, well, it's all fun and great, and I'd love to be involved in an internet business, or I am in one, but I don't know what I'm doing. You have to understand that if you demoralize yourself and you mentally close yourself off and you make yourself believe that you can't learn or master what is required, then it becomes like anything else in life. You will not be able to do it. You are your number one obstacle. If you can be open and if you can take advantage of situations where tools are provided to you and you have the right support, the right training, which is very transparent, no holes barred, and it's easy to take advantage of that training, then it's something that you want to pursue and you want to be open to. You want to take advantage. So, what if every day our parents asked us this one question, and it is a popular one? What do you want to be when you grow up? What if every day our parents spent about 30 minutes asking us to work on the answer to this most popular of questions? Then, what if it was made such a popular question that it was actually part of the day every single day? Consistency, persistence. There's nothing more powerful than the right amount of persistence and repetition when you're focusing on the right things, when you're focusing on open-ended things that can take you in multiple directions of progress. We know that at a young age, the answer received may often change. It may be a different one every week or every month. Even at an older age, this may change. What if we were asked how we would go about accomplishing this wish of ours? What if we walked through the steps with our parents and they knew to lovingly force us to map out how this would all transpire, assisting us to think through very methodically how it would come to fruition? You see, the most valuable thing we are all given right from birth is the gift of time, and we all start on a level playing field, illnesses aside, of course. So it's common for kids to be asked And why am I talking about this? We're not all still kids. No, of course not. But this is really the fabric, the foundation of what makes everyone behave in a certain way. And I want to just get across to you that being an entrepreneur or aspiring to be an entrepreneur with an online business or any business for that reason, these things, these past events will affect you if you don't get a much deeper understanding of them and start to chop them up, dissect them, and just leverage what's occurred in a very different way. So for instance, a lot of times people are asked and were asked growing up, what do you want to be when you grow up? But you know what? If you think about it, what you probably weren't asked in detail is, what are you going to do? So how would you go about, you want to be an astronaut? How would you go about doing this? Let's think about this. What would the steps be required to get there? You want to be an entrepreneur? You want to be a fashion icon? You want to be a software programmer? You want to be a developer? You want to be a game developer? You want to be a business software developer? You want to have the next best, greatest, most trafficked social media website? What would the steps be? What would you do? How would you start? Where does it start? Where's the middle point? And where's the end point? So this special gift, back to time, makes us all wealthy right out of the gate. It is the single most powerful currency of wealth on planet Earth and perhaps the entire universe, galaxies, and solar systems. It is a wealth currency that has nothing to do with financial wealth, but how we use it can guide us towards financial wealth and the spiritualization, true happiness that comes along and can come along with it. Now, I'm going to go back to the question and mapping it all out. And I want you to all stay with me here because I'm leading up to an impactful point that's really going to forever change how you see things, and it's going to change everything for the better. When we are asked the question of how would we go about doing this referring to the mechanics that would lead up to accomplishing our goal, this would force us to think out of the box. And this is the only out of the box thinking because it's new to us. That's what makes it out of the box thinking. So it's beyond the day-to-day staples that society uses as a template for everyone as they mature. And what it does do is it begins to condition our minds at a very young age. It begins to embed within us that so long as we're willing to think about making what we perceive as the impossible become possible, it can become our reality. And that goes back to what I was getting at earlier, because if you can train yourself to think this way, even as an adult, you can really move mountains. Your perception is the single most important thing, along with time, that needs to be on solid ground. That's the solid foundation that's going to put you in the position to succeed. And without that in place, that's the starting line. That's not even the middle line or the finish line. That's the starting line. But if you have a good grip and understanding on that, truly the sky is the limit. Even wonder why the common "Thank God It's Friday" is so popular? You may believe it is because everyone, or at least most people, think, are happy the work week or the school week is over. The underlying truth here is that it's not about that. It's all about time. It's a veiled way of expressing gratitude for being handed back control of our time. The worst part is that most don't even realize this, and they really have absolutely no idea. So yeah, thank God it's Friday. What people are really saying, if you use that or if you think that to yourself, it's because you're not really where you want to be. You're not enjoying yourself, and you're really talking about time, because the weekend means, aside from, of course, having to take care of family duties, depending on how old you are, that can become more condensed, more packed in, or less and more so freedom. But the point is that the person that says this TGIF is seeking freedom. And you're going to find that when you get to the point of the I's being dotted and the T's being crossed, you can make a Monday or a Tuesday feel like a weekend. And the weekend doesn't really mean much anymore because you have that freedom, because you have complete control of your business and your destiny. And that's probably the most enjoyable thing, the greatest thing about having an internet business. And I know for myself, and other people as well, that probably the most fun is I love being able to go out in the middle of a day on a Monday or Tuesday and just do some leisure shopping, or even just errands, grocery shopping with my wife and what have you. And when you can go and do that in the middle of the day, there's no lines, there's no traffic, the malls aren't packed. If I decide that I want to, in the middle of the day, just go and work out, I can go and do that. If I want to hop on a plane and go to the Caribbean for a week or two, I can do that as well. I can keep track of everything that goes on within the office as long as I have some internet access. So I think that freedom, true freedom, is not being geographically limited and not being pinned down. Of course, I have days that are regimented, but I regiment them to the times of my choosing. I'm not a prisoner to the regimentation. I can move things around as I wish to, and that's what you'll be able to do with your internet business. It doesn't mean you're not going to work, but what it does mean is that you're going to have the freedom to you work the business. The business isn't going to work you, if that makes sense. The people that do not use that saying are few, and also some of the lucky ones. They have figured out how to master their own day-to-day time. So that's like what I was saying a minute ago. There's no need for it to be handed back to them. They already have control of it and have the firmest of grips on their spiritual elation and or the potential of it. So they likely have command of their weekly day-to-day as well as part of the financial, as well as are part of the financially free and or wealthy. There is no need for them to ever express inwardly or outwardly, thank God it's Friday. Now, I'm sure that that popular term, a lot of you have never really thought too much about, and I hope that you have a little bit of a different perspective on it in time so far as we go through this ebook. They got to this state of mindset from discovering and understanding that time is the vault which contains infinite possibilities as long as it is leveraged correctly. How could something that is free and plentiful for everyone right out of the gate be so overlooked by most? Well, it's quite simple and is also the root of all failures and shortfalls in almost all cases. It is the mismanagement of time that is at the heart of it all. You know why most people, 90% of people, fail when they try to get involved in internet businesses or try to become an entrepreneur? It's the mismanagement of time. Most of the time, it's not the opportunity. You know, people think that, well, the opportunity wasn't right, I'm just going to jump to another one. And they just jump and jump and jump and jump like a ping pong ball that's just flying across a ping pong table. And they don't even realize that they're chasing their tail. It's really them, and it's the mismanagement of time. So if your day to day is in chaos and you find it hard to be able to concentrate, it's really because of managing time. And you need to take things in your day that don't lead you anywhere that's really advantageous, and you need to eliminate them, and then you need to replace that time that you would spend doing something that's not going to help change your life and change your world for the better, and spend that time on your business. So it's quite simple and is also the root of all failures. I just read that, but how could this be and why would it happen? How could it slip by so many and still all along while being in plain sight? How terrible and wasteful it is. Really, it's bordering on a cruel occurrence. So it is the fault of our parents and their parents. The buck starts and stops there. It is something that was unbeknownst to them. Not done out of malice, not done intentionally, but nevertheless it occurred. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not directly blaming parents. It's really society, but our parents and of course their parents were brought up that way, and everything was shown to them exactly in that manner. So of course they passed it on to us because they just didn't know in most cases of an alternative. It was not even really to be thought about too much. It was the norm that was required to give us a solid foundation. So our parents love us, they do what's best, and they figure that that is what's best. So I make this statement not with an intent to cast blame, it's only to illustrate a cause for the eventual effect. As part of the human condition, it is required by us all that we are clearly shown a point of origin with most things, and this enables us, arms us, to maximize our ability to then become able to better internalize what we are being served. Consider that even though I'm writing this, Consider that even though what I am writing is not a five-star feast, it is the type of quality in the form of an observation which can be produced for your intellectual consumption. The fork and knife for your eyes, and your digestive system at play here is, of course, your mind. Everything that you'll ever come across, everything that you'll get in touch, that you'll experience in life is all based around time. And the way you perceive it, the way that you look at it, is really the foremost thing that's going to determine where you end up. This is why I use the term being served. Most things that we experience, regardless of form, physical event, or literary, is for our consumption in one way or another. When we brush our teeth, we do it not for the act of brushing, it's for the desired result. We want to have healthy teeth which stand the test of time. The brush is not the desire, it's simply the instrument you leverage to march towards your end goal. We understand that the toothbrush makes the toothpaste most effective. Time is our toothbrush, which we need to leverage in the correct manner. The add-on, how we use time, is the toothpaste. So, it's not just about understanding time, it's about, once you do understand time, what are you going to do to get the most out of your time? So if you were very, very thirsty and you had a glass of water, well, you have a couple of choices. If you're dying of thirst, you might guzzle it crazily because you're desperate, but you'll end up spilling some and you may end up choking. Or you're going to drink it at a good pace and you're going to make sure that you use up all that water to quench your thirst. So this is no different. The combination of the two delivers the optimum result. The desire for healthy teeth is, in this case, having the mastery of your own time. If the relationship between the three is misunderstood, we cannot achieve our end goal. So everything has to be done correctly, and properly and orderly. Leveraging of times, accessories, and tools. Now, let us get back to it now so that we may connect all the pertinent dots that are involved in this specific observation of time. Fact: 90% of all American workers do not own their own business. They are not in charge of their own currency of time. You have already decided to lean towards being part of the 10% choosing to actually read this material, right? Because if you're here, obviously you're already involved in an internet business, or you're looking to get involved, or you're looking to improve, get more results out of the business you're currently involved in. There are only generals and soldiers in the economic fabric of our society. The generals are part of the 10%, meaning the business owners, the entrepreneurs, and the soldiers are part of the 90%. Both depend on each other. Without this very dynamic, everybody will taste failure. There is no economic equilibrium. It ceases to exist. Far worse than experiencing failure is not even being able to even attempt to experience success. Without the economic structure of the 90% and the 10%, there cannot be an attempt by anyone. So this foundation is required, and I'm not implying that everybody should become an entrepreneur. Everybody can't anyway. And that's one thing about the economic structure of society that unfortunately, but fortunately, must be as it is, because it's a very delicate balance between ownership, employeeship, entrepreneurs, and people that are not entrepreneurs. So you need the generals, the entrepreneurs and owners, and you need the soldiers. Otherwise, you can't have an economy that runs properly, that runs effectively. Attempt is the womb of success. Failure is also the womb of success. If anybody ever tells you, I don't care if it's friends, family, or both, that trying to do something is silly, or you shouldn't bother, or it's too difficult, or you don't want to fail, or what if you fail, or be conservative, as they say, they are probably, in terms of business or any type of progressional advice, the worst people to be talking to. They may be fantastic, fantastic people on a different level, but when it comes to business, they will amount to absolutely nothing. And if you listen to them, you're not going to get anywhere either. Some of the greatest inventions, some of the greatest products, some of the greatest businesses were based on two things: attempt and failure. If you don't make the attempt, you can't succeed. If you fail, so what? Doesn't matter. Some of the greatest inventions have come from failure. There isn't a single person that has produced great things that didn't initially fail. if I use someone who's a public figure, we can use as an example. There's tons of them, but you can use Elon Musk, who's been in the news quite a bit lately. So, he's failed different times at different ventures, but he was also an entrepreneur from a young age and kept at it, and now has gone on to obviously great things, as you know, with Tesla Motors and with SpaceX as well. So remember, if you don't try, you can't achieve. If you don't attempt, you get nowhere. And if you've never failed, it means you've never tried very hard. And if you have failed, it means you have tried hard. And don't give up. Try again. You'll get to where you need to go. The greatest successes were arrived at from the clutches of failure. Attempt is always the root of all great things that are accomplished. Okay, so it's time for us to get to the nitty-gritty of leveraging times, accessories, and tools. So let us dive right into these deep blue waters right now. The soldiers choose the bandaid and just soldier on with their wounds. You are choosing to be a general, and this means you reject the bandaid and you opt for surgery. We now need to operate on you because your time, status, conditioning needs it. The purpose of the page before this one and the one that is above this paragraph on this page is to illustrate to you that I do understand you and where you're at. It is also for clearly mapping where you are in the landscape of the economical model, your new identity and deeper understanding, which you're on the cusp of gleaning. Finding and starting your own internet business is about steps. Like everything else, there are building blocks that are involved. It doesn't matter if you're already involved in a business or you're looking to get involved. If you're not aware of this one main fact, you will assure yourself a failure. It is not income. Now, again, yes, success comes from failure. It's a fact. But obviously, you want to avoid failure. You want to prevent it from occurring if it's within your power. And that comes from being as prepared as possible to minimize the chance of a failure. Because when you fail, it does lead to success. In most cases, it can and will if you don't give up, but it also chews up your time along the process. So failure is not a bad thing, but of course, you want to minimize the failures. So it's not income that you're actually looking for. You're seeking time mastery. The income can follow once you have control. That goes back to what I was saying before. Everybody is really seeking time mastery. You may look at it and say, well, I want to put away a college fund for the kids, or well, I want to buy a new car. I want to pay bills. I want to get my debts out of the way. Really what you're looking for though, because once all that stuff is out of the way, all that stuff is really attached to how you behave throughout the week and how your time is taken up. So money is not the primary thing. It does give you relieve stress, and it does provide freedom, but really you're looking for freedom of time. And that's why entrepreneurs bother in the first place, because they understand, some don't when it's new to them, but some do, that it's really not about the money. The money follows, but it's really about having a true mastery of your day-to-day, of your time, and of your life. Just like the toothbrush and the toothpaste, you must understand the tools involved, the pieces that must work together so that you can achieve your goal. Your first need to get more time out of your day-to-day. I'm going to show you how to do this right now. You need to give something up. It's true. You need to make a sacrifice. If you don't give something up, if you don't trade something for something else, you can't improve things. It's just not possible. So you need to give something up. Watching TV or spending time with people that have nothing positive to offer you is a tremendous place to start. Almost everybody has this in common, and it's really a very easy one. So think about how much time you spend every week with either one of these two scenarios. And I'm telling you, am I telling you never to watch TV again? Never to be social? No, I'm not. I am, however, being brutally honest so you can benefit and be in the position needed to become an active general. Most everyone spends over 30 hours a week watching TV. It's the American average, the average American family rather, does do that. And this isn't my opinion, it's actually a statistical fact, everyone. Now, let's examine why it is that most people decide to do this. It's a form of escape. It distracts people, and when they can become distracted from their day-to-day lives, they can actually forget, and they obtain a temporary release from doing this. Now, Spending time with people that are negative and or of no benefit to you. Don't misunderstand this one. You see, what I mean by benefit is that time needs to be mutually beneficial. So, in other words, if it's of no benefit to you, it means that it's not mutually beneficial. You can't spend your time with people that spend their time talking about themselves 90% of the time and or talking about problems, asking you to help them, asking you to break things down, and spending almost no time talking about you. I'm sure you all know people like that. And those are people really that you want to stay away from, because what they're doing is they're being selfish. Unless you're in a coaching, consulting, or mentoring situation, that's different, or in a business situation that's trying to promote and piece together a structure and help you. But if you're talking about a friendship, it has to be mutually beneficial. And that doesn't mean that 90% of the time is spent talking about the other person and only 10% is spent talking about you. You'll also find that if people you spend your time with are negative and always seem to have some disaster brewing or are immersed in one, this will eventually cascade over to you. If not literally, then figuratively. And I'm sure if you think back to the example I've just used, you can probably come up with um, different instances where this probably happened to you. And if it didn't, it happened to somebody that you know. And if it didn't happen to you, you're quite lucky and you have this part um, down pat. So there's a difference between helping people, which is always a great thing, and immersing yourself with daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly time spent. Whether you feel it or not, this becomes emotionally draining, and it's going to come back to cause you harm. So I can go into a lot more detail with the last couple of paragraphs, but that's for another time. That's for another ebook and another webinar. So in short, we eventually become like those who we choose to surround ourselves with, and this can sabotage reaching our true potential. Commit to corrections for income injections. Think about it. Commit to corrections for income injections. Time was taught to us all wrong. Now there needs to be a trade-off to make things right. Let's assume that you just cut your TV time in half. In most cases, that'll give you 10 to 15 hours a week. Did you know that even 5 hours a week is actually enough to gain traction in an online business? It is. But it's going to take longer to glean results at 5 hours a week because your momentum velocity requires an accumulation of time to build strength. Time also rings true for your own mastering of methods which you need to accomplish. It boils down to how thirsty you are in terms of seeing results. If you want them sooner, then you're going to leverage more time. If you're not in a hurry, then obviously less time, right? So it's in your control, and what type of trade-off you're going to make to leverage time is completely up to you. Remember, commit to corrections for income injections. Now, if for some reason you don't want to commit to the correction because your subconscious is sneaking up behind you out of fear and panic, you need to ask yourself one thing. If nothing in my life changes and all remains the same, will things be as I want them to be? If the answer is no, be proud of yourself because you have the solution. It's found its way to you and you to it. Look, it doesn't matter if a person has not much money or if they're a multimillionaire. When you're involved in different ventures, fear is always a factor. And I say this very often to people, and it's a very useful thing if you take it literally and understand it. Everyone feels fear, and it's all relative. So even somebody who's wealthy, if they're working on something that could potentially, they could lose, a half a million or a million or more, well, the fear is there and they feel it. But the difference is somebody that never gets what they want lets the fear rule them. They seize up and they don't take action. They don't follow through. They just don't do it. And somebody who gets what they want feels the fear, but they carry on and they push through and they do what they need to do. And those are the people that actually get what they want. They don't let fear rule them, but fear is always there. And if anybody ever told you that, they never feel fear in a situation like that, then there's probably something pretty seriously wrong with them because it's not human. Okay, so the old saying rings true every single time in this situation. If you're seeking different results, start taking different actions, right? It's only common sense, and it's another overlooked thing. People spend too much time going through the same motions over and over and over again and being disgruntled, distraught, depressed, let down, aggravated with not getting to where they need to be. So it's really as simple as taking different actions. Time is the single most important weapon we need to understand deeply to begin traveling the road towards entrepreneurship successfully. Once you have that sorted out, you can begin to experience what it is to truly be an online general or an entrepreneur. Now, as I was printing this, I had actually made some changes to the ebook, and I had to do a little double take and reprint so that I could go over it properly here. So time, the meaning of it and how to navigate it has been embedded into us the wrong way, and it was done over a period of decades. So now you have to squash decades of misinformation in hours. Now, how's that for a positive irony? If you could squash decades of information in hours, what would it change? So it's all about a just paradigm shift in your understanding and really knowing how to begin to manipulate your time in a way where you become its master so that you can attain what you're seeking. Just begin to apply what I've provided in this content. It's the only foundation of your success as an entrepreneur. It's the only first step to take. The purpose of course is obtaining, cementing the delivery of your desires. It's all about you, not anybody else. And when it's all about you, it's not a selfish thing, because when you get what you want, you can then apply your passions, take things that are important to you, and you can help other people and give back, which is extremely important when you're in a good position. By now, you should feel that you have a different perspective in terms of how you perceive time and how you can prosper from its manipulation dynamic. I want you to feel free to get in touch with me and share your comments and or questions. There will be much more to come. We have only just dipped our toe into the waters of the income incubator. So now you've completed volume 1, Currency of Time. Don't forget to press the red button to subscribe to the YouTube as well. I've only opened this up to a small amount of people and my internal team, but I may be opening it up to a greater amount of people in the future. So either way, if you're not already subscribed, if you like it, click subscribe so you can get notified of more when it becomes available. And feel free to message me using your preferred method of communication. Doesn't matter if it's Facebook, direct messages on DMs on Twitter or Facebook. You can email me, you can iMessage me. There's no lack of communication, and if you're already in our internal app, then stick to our online chat app and communicate that way. And of course, you can also find me on Skype as well. That's it for now.